All right, so in the past couple of weeks, there has been a lot of chatter about how hip hop is taking a hit in the streaming market. And I'm here to tell you guys right now, as a culture, hip hop is not dead at all. But as in streaming numbers, it is looking a little, a little suspect right now. Bolo! All right, let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsor, which is zZounds.com. They have a ton of items on their site right now that you can get without no credit or background check. Now, it's not all of the items on the site, but it's a ton of items on their site that you can get right now without a credit or background check. So if your money's a little funny and you want to get something right now and just pay it off over time, go ahead and click that link in the description right now. Go to the site, go ahead and find you some stuff that you can get without no credit or background check. It actually listed on the actual items, and you can go ahead and get it if you need it. If you don't need it, then don't get it. But if you do need some new equipment, go ahead and click my link right here in this description so you can go to zZounds.com and pick you up some stuff today. All right, so what's going on with hip hop? Everybody's so concerned because the streaming numbers are a little low right now. And it's not like terribly low, but it is on a decline, and it's been like that for like the past 3 years. Because I think in 2020, I think the market share for hip hop was like 30%, and in 2021, it went down to 29, and in 2022, it went down to 27%, and who knows what it's going to be in 2023. But there is a few key factors that goes along with why the numbers are actually getting a bit lower. I've seen this stuff happen before, and usually back in the day when numbers actually dipped in the music industry, like in the early 90s and the early 2000s, they used to blame it on bootlegging. And if you guys don't know what bootlegging is basically when we used to have tapes and CDs, people used to dub the tapes and dub the CDs, and they used to sell it. And then back then, all the record companies used to blame the bootleggers because they felt like they were taking their profits away from them by selling these tapes and CDs. But that's not the case right now. And it's kind of showing that it probably wasn't the case back then either. Now let's look at what has happened over the years. Now in 2017, hip hop actually took over one of the most dominant genres of music, which was rock. And you got to think, when that happened, hip hop was on a whole nother level. Like, it was a lot of great artists and great talent out at that time, and it just catapulted a lot of streams and a lot of sales like that, because hip hop was really one of the first genres of music that actually utilized the streaming platform. It was crazy how many people were just streaming and streaming and streaming at that time. And then during that time, the record companies were really kind of catching up to the whole streaming thing. It was kind of weird at that time. But of course, we had COVID. And then when COVID kind of hit, things got real interesting, because right when hip hop was at its peak in the market share, a lot of people were just streaming and streaming and streaming. And what that did in the US, as in particular, it created a wide spread of just people on their phones streaming music, because we really didn't have anywhere to go or really nothing to do, unless you're like a producer like me. If you really think about it, COVID wasn't that bad to me. I actually kind of enjoyed it, because I did the exact same thing that I did every single day before COVID. I was in the studio making music and messing around with stuff. So it didn't really affect me like that. I don't know if it affected y'all like that, but it didn't affect me. So people were home and they were streaming a ton of music in 2020. Like, they were just streaming away. And then what was happening is there were so many new artists and new genres being introduced to the game, to where now it just wasn't hip hop was just being listened to. People were listening to a whole bunch of different genres of music. However, it really wasn't different genres of music. They were just labeling it differently. Like right now, you have a lot of Latin artists right now who are basically rapping, but they don't list it as hip hop. They list it as Latin music. Now, before I go further, let me kind of look this up real quick. Let me just make sure that I'm not saying nothing that might, Yeah, it is right. The artist Bad Bunny, I got him pulled up right here on my phone, right here on iTunes, and they actually have him listed as a Latin artist, which we all know that, okay, yeah, it's Latin, but we all know that it's reggaeton, or that's how you say it, right? Reggaeton. But we all know that that is basically hip hop in Spanish, but they have it listed as Latin. Now, I don't know if I'm tripping. Let me know if you guys think I'm tripping. That is hip hop, but they have it listed as Latin. maybe I could be missing something. And another thing I noticed too is that with a few other artists that do hip hop, they have it listed as pop. Let's take a look at this as well. Let me just make sure that I'm not tripping right here. What was this other kid right here? Kid Lori. Let me see here. He has a new single called, I guess it's Love, which he's like really rapping on here, but they have it listed as pop, but he's clearly rapping on there. And all of his songs, he's clearly rapping, but they have it listed as pop. You know, some people say it's popular music, but now that is an actual genre. It's not like popular music, that's pop, it's a genre. Even though these artists are actually technically rapping, they are being categorized differently. So that's actually one of the big factors of all of this, because they're not being listed as hip hop, even though they are hip hop, rap, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. Another factor is there's been a rise in different music overseas. Shout out to all my African brothers and sisters over there. You guys are doing your thing, and then now we are seeing a huge rise in Afro beats. Yeah, they over there doing their thing over there. And I'm telling you guys right now, that whole Afro beat market is going insane right now. And I even go to an international club on the weekends, and I really enjoy going there and dancing all night, because they still actually dance like in international clubs like that. So me and my lady like to go there and, you know, get our sweat on and get our drink on too. It's nothing like going there and listening to a lot of artists over there that's especially like from Africa. They're just doing their thing right now. The market share is actually being split up a little bit, because now we're listening to different music in a sense. So yeah, now with the rise of Latin music and with the rise of like African music, Afro beats, and then now you even have a big uptick in soca. You have a big uptick with a lot of stuff that's going on in the U.S. Virgin Islands. There is a bit of a market share divide from that, even though everything is pretty much an urban thing. It's still urban music. And to be truthfully honest, even R&B is taking a hit too, but it's a reason why for that as well, because hip hop and R&B pretty much correlate with each other when all this stuff happens. Now, another factor to this that some people fail to realize is with hip hop and even with R&B, that a lot of the big mainstream artists are not putting out music like they used to. Like, you know, Rihanna, Travis Scott, even like the Big Seans of the world. My boy Wayne, he drops a few things here and there. We can always say Drake is gonna drop something. We can say that. But right now, some of the bigger mainstream artists that really hold down the charts are not putting out music as much. And right now, hip hop is kind of like in a transitional period, because really trying to see who's going to be the next big thing. And right now, there's a ton of artists out that is making some really good music and are doing some really decent sales, but they're not putting up those rock solid numbers like how it used to be. And some of the big name artists are, of course, the audience is kind of shifting, because we all know that the audience is usually very young. They're the ones who consume the most music, and a lot of times they want to get with some new younger artists as well, rather than, you know, just listen to the same artists over and over again. So I get that. So there's always been a transitional period with that. But when some of these kind of bigger name artists are not putting out music like that, then yes, the market share does kind of take a hit. But there is a transitional period going on right now. I feel like a new wave is coming, and I believe it'll uptick back up. But of course, with different genres of music kind of taking flight right now, there's going to be this type of a period. And I believe before it comes back up, it might dip down a little bit lower. But what does this mean for producers? It really doesn't mean nothing. You guys can still produce the same way. However, I will say this. I think you guys need to incorporate some new things in your productions and maybe switch a few things up. Maybe not doing the same 808s, maybe not doing the same claps, maybe not doing the same type of melodies and stuff like that. You might need to switch up, and you might need to learn a different genre of music as well. Maybe learn what's going on over there in Africa. Maybe learn what's going on down there in the U.S. Virgin Islands and below that. Be a little more international with what you're doing rather than just doing what we do here in the States. But right now, the decline is actually going on in the States. Now, worldwide, it's a little bit different. Like in certain countries, they are still very heavily dependent on U.S. hip-hop, and it's still virtually number one. But right here in the States, we pretty much dictate what goes on around the world, because we have this huge consumer market share here in the States. We spend the most money on music. We play the most music. Our market share right now is huge right now when it comes to music. So that's why Everybody has to come here to the States, or we have to go to certain places. When I was managing, I'm telling you, that's how this thing worked. So when big artists, even from other countries, they would still have to come here to the States. I think one of the few places you really don't have to do that is India and maybe like Korea. They can pretty much stand on their own with what they have going on. But pretty much anywhere else, if you have a big name artist, they're gonna have to come over here to the States. I don't feel like they have to come over here and like, you know, have to do their thing over here for them to be successful. But I do feel like every artist, once they get to a certain level, they have to come over here and kind of like be introduced to the States, because once they get introduced to the States, we just consume whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So far as you young producers out there, learn to do some Afro beats, learn to do some reggaeton, learn to do different styles of music to try to fit people worldwide. Because right now with the whole streaming thing, this thing is getting wider and wider and wider. It's not just a US thing anymore. It's not just a UK thing anymore. It's not just like a Western society type of a thing anymore. This is actually widening out more and more and more, because now more and more people are streaming, and these streaming numbers are ridiculous right now. The US has seen a growth in music sales right now. It is back to like pre-recession levels right now. So music is widely popular again. People are consuming it because now the middleman is gone. Everything has to be streamed and it can be collected right now. So right now it's a good time for you guys to go ahead, learn some new styles, incorporate some new things into your music, and try to get with some different genres if possible. Now, hip hop is not over with, nowhere near over with. They're just reclassifying a lot of these artists. So you can still make some of the same beats, but just incorporate some different stuff into it so you guys can have some success in not only just the traditional trap or traditional hip hop. You can go out and branch out and work with some different artists as well, and you might can see, you know, a little success doing that. So you guys tell me what you think. Do you think that hip hop is going to be on decline? Do you think it's going to come back up? Do you think that it's going to stay where it's at? You guys let me know. And for you producers out there, are you guys making a change right now? Are you guys thinking about, okay, let me kind of add this to my productions, or are you going to kind of stay the same and just keep doing what you do? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. So I hope this video was informative. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And like I always say, peace out.